Roman is the biggest bad guy character in professional wrestling.
When's the last time you got laid?
French Toast is the exchange student that you have like a 3-week affair with.
Like, we can see that you don't have pants on.
Can we tell the truth about Dusty sooner or later?
Bro, less people wanted that than are currently watching our streams. Right?
And you know Vince, and you still think, are these true? It's like...
Welcome to the Mark It Down podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mark It Down podcast. I'm James Giasanti. It's Thursday night. You know what that means. We're in the Gym Pack Zone, where we cover all things TNA and Impact. This was a shockingly jam-packed Impact, guys. We are still a few weeks away from, more so, honestly, we're a couple of months away from Bound for Glory. But they are treating it like it is next week or in the next couple of weeks because they are just, the rocket is just blowing towards it. We are booking matches. We are getting ready for big feuds, big fight feels. And at least when it comes to the X Division, which got a lot of coverage tonight, they're making sure the ball is rolling early. Right out the gate, before the show even really started, we had some Steph DeLander PCO honeymoon shenanigans. Well, really, just Steph DeLander. As Steph DeLander invited us all to check out their honeymoon. She was by herself, and she says she cannot wait to see her monster, who's not quite there yet, but she wants our opinion. What do we think the monster would rather see her in, red or black? I think she looked good no matter what. Just gonna say that. But there are definitely some Steph DeLander shenanigans throughout the night. There's definitely quite a bit of a story being told there. And just as we've come to expect with this Beauty and the Beast storyline, some of it is funny and some of it is unfortunately tragic. But moving on, we're going to get to our first in-ring segment of the night as the System, every member, came out and addressed the crowd. Alicia doing her usual thing of getting the crowd properly annoyed, properly frustrated, and then passing it off to her husband, Eddie Edwards, who said that their loss at Slammiversary, the collective losses of the System, was just a fluke. It is not representative of who they are, and they will be coming back. Brian Myers does his own level of complaining and really sets the tone for this group, this reboot that we were expecting of the System. It just sounds a little more of the same. Then they hand the mic to Johnny Dango Curtis, JDC, and he had by far the best moment on the mic as the crowd was just booing him, just absolutely not here for JDC. And then he only says, "Shut up, town." He couldn't even be bothered to remember the name of the town. I love it. I know I've been very about him in the past, and I've been having hope with him with the System, and I think tonight really cemented why this was a great change for him, a great move for him. He's just absolutely gelling in this group now. He is the comedy guy, and that works, and it's working in these doses where he has other people to bounce off of. He then hands the microphone to Moose, who addresses the current TNA World Champion, Nic Nemeth, saying that you may be the champion, but you are not the face of the franchise like I am. I will reclaim my TNA World Heavyweight Championship. I will be the top of the mountain once again. He then switches his focus. He switches his attention to Mike Santana, or as he called him in the beginning, that lunatic running around in the back. He says Santana likes to call himself that dog. And he says next week he is going to old Yeller Santana. as he is going to face him one-on-one in Tampa on Impact. That is definitely going to be a fun matchup. I'm looking forward to Santana actually facing some true blue main event talent here in TNA. I think we're finally at that point where we're not really waiting on anything anymore, and it took us long enough. So good for Santana, good for TNA getting ready to promote him to a higher level. Moving past that, we have a Jonathan Gresham backstage interview as he was with the hardest working woman in TNA, me and Gia Miller. Gia a little confused by Gresham's appearance here on Impact tonight. She talks about his upcoming match later in the show against Kushida, a match that he was supposed to have had at Slammiversary. She says she's a little surprised to see Gresham here tonight, but more so she's surprised to see him as he is, addressing the fact that he's normal right now. There's no octopus mask. There's no ink coming out of his mouth. This is the Jonathan Gresham that we all know and we've all been accustomed to for all these years. He sort of just skirts past it. He says, yeah, you're right. I've been sick and I wasn't feeling well, which is why I had to miss that. But that's not important. I'm here now and I'm ready to go. Kushida comes into the picture and he looks confused. He looks a little weary of Gresham, and Gresham is smiling, all smiles, and he puts his hand out for a handshake. And Kushida looks like he's thinking about it, but then he just walks away hesitantly. I get it. He's been feuding with this weirdo for a while now, and Gresham is appearing as if nothing has happened. We were all kind of worried on social media this week as they were hyping this match up as if maybe they just dropped the octopus gimmick. Clearly they're not just doing that, because I don't think they would have had Gia Miller and Kushida address it. But I don't know what the plan is with this. I don't know where they're going with it. I'm here for it. If it's creating a little more dynamic and some more layers to this character for Gresham. But interesting way to go. Interesting approach here. We then go backstage again. Wow, we're like 3.5 segments in with no wrestling yet. And I will say, the wrestling we got tonight did deliver. So I don't know how they managed to do it, but I didn't feel dissatisfied at any point, especially yet. But we then go backstage with Santino Marella and the X Division champion, Speedball Mike Bailey. Santino announces the Ultimate X match that will be at Bound for Glory. I believe there are 6 spots. I don't think there's any more. 6 open spots, and everybody needs to qualify. And Speedball takes it upon himself to also qualify. He could have just been in the match, but he says it is so important being the X Division champion that he cares so much about representing the X Division and wanting to show that nothing goes without being earned in the X Division. And he wants to push his boundaries just like everyone else. So he puts himself in the triple threat qualifier for later on. Actually, it's the next matchup of the night. And I like this. I like that they're especially coming off of the Mustafa Ali X Division Championship reign, where Mustafa did not want to defend that belt unless he had to. He was often pushed into it. He was often coerced into it. This is a fighting champion who, if he had lost this qualifying triple threat match, they would just strip him of the title. That was the concept here. If he does not win the qualifier, he immediately is stripped of the X Division Championship, and the Ultimate X match would, I guess, define or declare the next X Division champion, which is kind of a weird thing to do. I would have just rather whoever won this became the X Division champion. I'm not a fan of vacating titles if you don't have to. But I love the fighting spirit of Speedball. And great way to define what type of champion he's going to be. And going into that, we are now, here at this first Ultimate X qualifier match, as we have the champion Speedball Mike Bailey taking on his tag team partner, in Speedball Mountain of Trent Seven and Jake Something. Now, you guys know I love Jake Something in the X Division. I think it works for him. I think he does so much better with these faster-paced guys, with these smaller guys, and I think this match highlighted that. And of course, chaos, guys, absolute chaos. I think this match highlighted that for him, and of course, his the third in the match, Trent Seven, also. I've never been overly wowed by Trent Seven. I don't have a problem with him. I think he is a more than adequate worker, but I've just never been blown away by him. His TNA run has definitely been opening my eyes quite a bit. In this match, up the ante. All three men in this match, absolutely, I don't want to say over-delivered because that implies that I didn't have high expectations of them, but even with my high expectations, they still wowed me, and I very, very much enjoyed this matchup between these X Division stars. Yes, I'm including Jake Something as an X Division star. Just going into the match, it's funny how this one, and I'm going to get into there was a second qualifier match later in the night, how different these matches felt. This match essentially started kind of as a handicap match, as we saw both Trent Seven and Speedball both attempting to take out Jake Something. It's not necessarily that they were trying to team up or have an unfair advantage. It's just Jake Something being this mountain of a man in comparison to the two of them. They knew where the challenge was, and they took turns trying to take him out. Eventually, they throw him out of the ring, and then that's where the dissolution sort of starts, as Trent Seven immediately tries sneaking a pin on the champion, only to be countered into a pin of his own by the champion. And then I like that it didn't seem like there were any hurt feelings there. It's simply a matter of we're trying to be the champion. All of us. We're all trying to qualify to get to Bound for Glory. So I did appreciate that. Again, these guys have excellent chemistry. You can't be shocked considering they've been tagging so often lately. They very clearly know each other's arsenal. They know each other's movements. And I think they flowed very well. And then, of course, just interrupting here and there is Jake Something, who just overpowers both of them. At one point, he's setting up Trent for a power bomb when Speedball gets on his back and puts him in a I don't know if it was a chicken wing sleeper, but he definitely at least had him in a sleeper. And then Jake is still able to overpower and powerbomb Trent with Speedball on his back, and then just dropping both men with such power, such ferocity. It was great. I thought it was a great showcase for Jake Something. I thought it was a great showcase for these two guys using their speed and technical ability to topple the monster. At one point, Trent hit multiple 7-star clotheslines onto Jake before finally getting knocked out of the ring himself and allowing Speedball to capitalize and hit an Ultima weapon on the big man, getting a pin, therefore rightfully holding on to his X Division championship and being the first man to qualify for the Ultimate X match at Bound for Glory. Great work from all three men. The pacing of it was a lot of fun because it alternated between being a true triple threat and an unofficial, unintentional, maybe handicap match. So great work. All three men absolutely proving why they are the top of the division. We then go backstage again as we have Tasha Steelz, who picked up another big win against Giselle Shaw on Explosion. We got to see a couple of minutes of them highlighting the Explosion match, and of course, Tasha stealing the victory again. She talks about, when we get back to her, her desire to win back the TNA Knockouts World Championship. And beating people like Giselle Shaw is exactly what she needs to do to get back to that title, back to that beautiful piece of jewelry, as she called it. Mentioning Giselle, of course, brought Giselle over. Giselle, who took issue with her being used as an example of what Tasha is looking to do to get back to the title, and taking issue with the fact that Tasha cheated and stole the win to get to move past her a little bit. Tasha said it's only cheating, it's only stealing if you get caught. And both women are sort of going back and forth with one another. And this brings in Santino Marella, who says he doesn't want to see this fighting here. He wants them to wrestle next week. And he is going to book another match. I believe this will be their fourth one. As I think Giselle won the first one, and then Tasha won the next two. But this match will have at least one extra referee to make sure all eyes are on the competition and no cheating can take place. I will say to you guys, I kind of want to see them as a tag team. I've been telling you how much I think the tag team division is starving for teams, and it is starving for women to freshen it up. And I think both of these women, who are excellent talent, but not quite ready to take over the Knockouts title again, the Knockouts World title again, I think their personalities kind of mesh well enough. They'd be a fun tag team. They'd be fun tag team champions. I'd be all for this, like, sort of odd couple, sort of perfectly balanced team. So let's see. Maybe all this strife, all this fighting will lead to a very successful partnership. I'm hoping. We'll see. We then go elsewhere backstage as Hammerstone is speaking to Santino Marella about how he's kind of becoming fascinated with the X division. He's very much belittling the division, saying it's so cute seeing these little guys fighting, these little guys competing. It's adorable to him. Santino makes it clear the X division isn't about limits. It's about no limits. It's about no boundaries, no restrictions. So people might not expect Hammerstone, but you know what? Hammerstone's going to be in a qualifying match for the X division championship. I am intrigued. The guy can move. We know that. He is a powerhouse. He is I can curse now, a brick shithouse. But it would be fun to see him in an Ultimate X match, especially maybe taking the place of Jake something who didn't qualify as being the strong guy of the match. I'm all for it. This brings out Eric Young, who tells him that he might be putting the cart before the horse here because he still has unfinished business with EY. They stare off as we go to our next matchup of the night, Kushida versus Jonathan Gresham. I don't know how I feel about this matchup, guys. This is a matchup that's had a lot of build, a lot of hype, a lot of expectations, and they did everything right. Right out the gate, they were trading. Let me just start off with Gresham tried shaking the hand of Kushida again. This time, Kushida seemed way more at ease with just brushing it off and not really even contemplating shaking the hand, not nearly as much. As soon as the action started, both men were trading holds, rest holds, trying to gain the upper hand, trying to wear down the opponent. And that's really what a lot of this match was. A lot of submission dominance. And of course, that's not something we should be surprised about, considering you're talking about Jonathan Gresham and Kushida. But the finish came out of nowhere. We saw lots of trading blows. We saw lots of back and forth submission holds. At one point, both men were entwined in a leg lock that it looked like they were both fighting to see who was actually hurting the other. Eventually, Gresham did get the upper hand and was able to lock in a figure four, but no man ever looked super dominant in this matchup. The finish coming as Gresham goes for a running crossbody that Kushida is able to counter and put him in a hoverboard lock, and then Gresham taps out very quickly. Very quickly. And yes, Kushida did attempt and did work the arm quite a bit in the match, but he never really locked it in. And then when he did, match over, game over. I know this is probably feeding into the fact that Gresham was more normal here as opposed to the octopus that we've seen, but I don't know, something just felt wrong. And maybe that's the point. Maybe when we do get Octopus Gresham back, maybe he's going to be more immune to Kushida's submissions. But I don't like this notion that regular Gresham is so week. And granted, look, if Kushida is putting me in a hoverboard lock, I'm probably tapping out instantly as well. But I'm not Jonathan Gresham. I don't know. Something definitely felt off with this matchup. Marco saying, say his name, and he appears. Joe Hendry. All right, maybe not here, but some of us here at the Mark It Down podcast will likely be seeing Joe Hendry this Sunday here in New York. So if you're in the New York area, go check out where Joe Hendry might be. And thank you for being here, Marco. I hope you enjoyed tonight's Impact, and thank you for being here with us at the Mark It Down podcast. After the match, Kushida looked a little, I don't want to say confused, but he definitely, I don't know. I think there was a moment of hesitation before going up in the corner and celebrating his submission victory over Gresham. Let's see where this goes. Let's see what this turns into. Yay, Kushida? Maybe. We then go to another backstage segment, this time with the ABC. The current TNA Tag Team Champions are celebrating themselves. They talk about being the greatest tag team in the world right now, and they're wondering who's next, who's going to step up to them to challenge them for the TNA Tag Team titles. This brings in the X Division champion, Speedball Mike Bailey. He lets them know he's not stepping up to them. He wants to thank them. He talks about the fact that their battles, their fights, their matches in the past have all helped make him a better wrestler, a wrestler worthy of being the X Division champion. And he wants to see this division step up, and he wants to see them step up in it. And he invites them to take part in qualifying matches for Ultimate X at Bound for Glory. They tell him that they're going to think about it. They appreciate it. And then after he leaves, they have the conversation saying, hey, the last time we tried doing this, it caused a little bit of trouble between us. They assure each other that this time will be a little bit different, and they contemplate the idea of one of them being a double champion in TNA. Hey, I am all for these guys going for the X Division title, as long as they're on the same page and it doesn't break my heart, as we saw with another tag team this week. I'm going to get to it. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to talk about what happened on NXT, but we'll get there. So very cool segment. I'm very interested to see how those qualifying matches are going to go in the next few weeks on Impact. Moving on, we had our open challenge for the Knockouts World Championship as Jordynne Grace continues her stellar title reign with this Knockouts title and just continuing to build her legacy as a top knockout in basically company history. Jordan's open challenge this time is not answered, thankfully, by an NXT superstar, but instead a TNA star, as Rosemary comes out to answer the challenge. I was very surprised. They've very clearly been building Rosemary up into something with Ash by Elegance and the personal concierge, but after a dominant win last week, I guess she felt confident enough to go for the title here. The match itself was fine, nothing spectacular. Neither woman did anything wrong here. Nothing bad happened, but out the gate, Rosemary, you saw Jordynne Grace kind of follow suit of her husband as she went for a handshake against Rosemary, but Rosemary kind of used that to fake her out and then try to get the upper hand and try to ambush Jordynne, attacking her with a flurry of offense and then putting her in a headlock with her legs over the apron on the outside. The action was pretty back and forth with Rosemary trying to use her speed to counterbalance the power of the juggernaut, Jordynne Grace, and she was able to keep the action going for quite a bit until Ash by Elegance comes out with her personal concierge. They're watching the matchup, definitely causing a distraction with the women until they attempt to actually cause a distraction as the personal concierge keeps the referee distracted as Ash by Elegance enters the ring and attacks both women with a kendo stick. The concierge ultimately fails in keeping him distracted, although admittedly, it's it's kind of just because Jordan wasn't really trying to hide it. She stayed in the ring posing with the kendo stick as the women were downed. This causes a double disqualification, or a no contest, I should say. And as Jordan continues to try to get the offense in, she is chased off by an angry Jordan Grace, who just sounded absolutely furious. I wonder if this is going to build to a triple threat. Ash by Elegance definitely impressed a lot of people in her singles match against Jordan for the Knockouts title, and maybe they want to run it back, but they want to add a little extra flair with Rosemary, who has definitely been injected with new life now that she's on her own. Let's see. It's definitely going to be a little bit different. It'll be a fun matchup, I think, as we have so many contrasting styles and so many different characters at play here. So bring it on. Something new. I don't know if you could stretch it all the way to Bound for Glory, but maybe at the next small event, we'll see. But fun stuff from these knockouts, and I'm very excited to see how Rosemary is going to torment the personal concierge, the Iceman, next week. I did miss this, so I apologize. We're going back to Steph DeLander and PCO's honeymoon. Steph DeLander, who's still by herself. She's now in a hot tub, and she decides to give a call to PCO to see where he is. It goes straight to voicemail, and you can tell she's a little worried, maybe? I don't know, but PCO, dog, what are you doing, man? It's your wife, bro. Don't leave her in a hot tub by herself. It's your honeymoon. It's crazy. What do I know? Anyway, moving on, we then go to an in-ring promo with Josh Alexander, who promises to explain his actions. And quite frankly, he kind of does, but man, does he sound like a little baby. As he comes out, the crowd continues to chant at him, "You sold out, you sold out." And he takes that opportunity to say that a few weeks ago, this crowd would have been eaten up chanting "walking weapon" at him. He's not wrong. It's crazy how time changes so much. He then asked the crowd if they want that explanation for his actions for what he did at Slammiversary, attacking Joe Hendry. The crowd immediately goes into "You screw Joe, you screw Joe," and then they chant for Hendry, and Josh says that he is not a wrestler. Joe Hendry is not a wrestler. He is a meme who couldn't even lace Josh's boots. The crowd then chants even harder for Hendry. They are doing right by this guy. Granted, obviously the NXT connection ain't hurting, but man, the TNA crowd is just ravenous for Hendry. Josh then asks for a little bit of respect, for he is the heart and soul of TNA, a nickname he says he earned with his blood, sweat, and tears, being the longest reigning TNA champion in company history. He's not really wrong. He then says that Nic Nemeth claims that he is a fighting champion, and he wants to fight him now. He wants to compete for that world championship. This brings out Nic Nemeth, who grabs a microphone and surprises Josh with a quick mic to the throat. It was brutal. It was quick. I loved it. As he is doubled over in pain, Nick then hits a pretty big super kick to drop him. He then mounts him and tells him that he is a fighting champion and he will face Josh next week in Tampa on Impact. We got some pretty big matches to look forward to so far for next week's Impact. We're definitely going to have an X Division qualifier. We're having Moose versus Mike Santana, I believe. Yeah, no, he said that we're going to have it next week. And now we're getting a World Championship match between Nic Nemeth and Josh Alexander. Please join me next week as we watch TNA. Impact is going to go crazy. We then go backstage to Santino Marella, who makes the match. Did I say Marella? I don't know what that was. My bad, guys. Santino Marella, as he makes the match official. This brings in Frankie Kazarian, who's pissed, saying, why are we still placating to Frankie Kazarian? I mean, to Josh Alexander, when Frankie Kazarian is the king of TNA. He should be getting the shots for the world title. Santino says that he's not really at a point where he deserves a shot for the world title. And Kaz says he will get there soon. I'm all for it. Let's see. Let's see how it goes. We then go to our next Ultimate X qualifying match as Zachary Wentz of the Rascals takes on Casey Navarro and NXT's Dante Chen. Now, before I get into the matchup itself, I am going to get into what happened on NXT this Tuesday, as the finish of the Great American Bash saw the Rascals unfortunately lose in their attempt for the NXT Tag Team Championships. The Rascals being comprised of, in this match, Wesley, NXT's Wesley, and Zachary Wentz. They are no strangers to the tag team division, especially in NXT, before Wentz had to leave. After the match, after the loss, all three, Trey Miguel, Wentz, and Wesley, are in the ring. Wes super kicks Trey Miguel and then kicks Zachary Wentz right in the nether region. You could tell all three men were emotional at this breakup. Trey looked like he was crying before it even happened. Wentz dumbfounded at the betrayal, and Wes says, "You left me." And he said, and Wentz heartbreakingly responding with, "I know." So you left me, probably in response to Wentz's firing from NXT and moving over to TNA, leaving Wesley on his own, who admittedly went on to have an amazing run in NXT as a single star. So I don't know why he's so angry here. I'm bummed because I was very much enjoying the dynamic of these three members of the Rascals teaming together. I've been saying for these last few weeks how surreal it felt, how just so, wow, at least TNA is getting a bigger star in Wesley here than what we've been getting. And now, of course, it looks like we're going to get a feud, probably. And if it does happen, it does sort of seem like it's going to happen on NXT television and not TNA television. Crazy how that happens. Crazy. I've seen a lot of people ridicule people who are upset with the TNA NXT relationship. We were giving them the Rascals and Joe Hendry, and we're getting Dante Chen and Wolfgang. Come on. No disrespect to Wolfgang. I'm not super familiar with him because I didn't really watch NXT UK, but I did love the NXT UK tournament, the initial one. And I'd even say it was better than the CWC. Unpopular opinion, maybe. But that's really where I know Wolfgang from. Gallus is Gallus. And I will be the first to admit I don't really watch NXT, but I've never heard of Dante Chen before. He looked great in this matchup. This triple threat was a lot of fun, and I'm going to get to it now that I'm done with I'm done rambling and crying about the NXT TNA relationship. But bummer. And I guess, like, you could argue we would have never even seen the reunion of the Rascals if it wasn't for the partnership between NXT and TNA. But man, this is not how I wanted that relationship to go. This feels like money on the table. But I'm not the booker. What do I know? Just a mark. But this match, this Ultimate X qualifier match between Zachary Wentz, Casey Navarro, and Dante Chen was a lot of fun and very different from the previous qualifier match, something I kind of touched upon when I was talking about it. That match was two small guys trying to whack away, try to whittle down their much bigger opponent, and it almost felt like a handicap match. This was not that. This was a true blue triple threat as all three men tried to get the upper hand here. Lots of fast-paced action, lots of back and forth with every man getting a chance to shine. I was intrigued with who was going to win and who was going to get pinned here, because we've been very careful when it comes to NXT and TNA superstars competing against one another and who's going to come out on top. As of right now, I think TNA has more wins than NXT. I haven't done the math in a little bit. And again, I know I've said this in weeks past. It doesn't matter who's winning the matches. I'm not upset if a TNA superstar loses to an NXT superstar. I'm not overly thrilled if a TNA superstar beats an NXT superstar. All right, that's not entirely true. I do kind of love it. But it doesn't matter to me as much as presentation matters. So you have an NXT superstar in Dante Chen. You have a TNA star in Zachary Wentz. And then you have, who has been on TNA TV before, Casey Navarro, but who is an independent talent. And that is what we saw happen, as we saw Zachary Wentz hit the UFO onto Casey Navarro and get the pin. So in this instance, a TNA star advances to Ultimate X without pinning the NXT star, but instead pinning the independent talent. And let me say, I love Casey Navarro. This guy is all over the independent scene, winning title after title after title. We've been lucky enough to see him in House of Glory, Revolver. The guy's all over the place, and he's got it. It's only a matter of time before he gets signed to one of the major companies. They'd be foolish not to sign him. Big fans of Casey Navarro here on the Mark It Down podcast. Although we are fans of all the men in this match, Zachary Wentz, and I'm becoming a fan of Dante Chen here. But fun matchup between the three. Like I said, very differently paced than the first match. And commentary doing a great job of talking about what happened on NXT, considering this was taped prior to the betrayal that happened on Tuesday. We couldn't really see on screen a lot of the payoff of that. So commentary working double duty to make sure the audience is aware of the headspace of Zachary Wentz and the Rascals right now. So well done by everybody involved. Moving on. We then have another and our final Steph DeLander and PCO honeymoon adventure update, as Steph DeLander is now in bed in her PJs getting ready for her hubby to show up. She gets, I forget if it was a text or a call from PCO saying that he's coming, and I'm sorry, and then there was a knock on the door. She goes to see who it is. She does her top to, I guess, surprise her hubby. But instead, in the doorway is Matt Cardona. Cardona, who is frustrated with Steph DeLander. Steph DeLander, who is frustrated with Cardona, saying this is her honeymoon. Leave her alone. And Cardona making it known they have bookings that they're missing because she's on this honeymoon. I am loving, finally. TNA was struggling with Cardona when they had him, even when he was a heel, because who he was on the indies was not who he was in TNA. In TNA, especially in the beginning, he was a babyface, and that was not working on the independent scene. This indie god, this king of the death match, was not who we were seeing on TNA television, so it was a weird contrast. And then even after he turned heel, the character wasn't really aligned with who we were seeing every week on the indies, no matter where he showed up. Now we're starting to see this character actually feel like the Cardona that's been terrorizing places like House of Glory and GCW and everywhere else. So this is really fun. This is really working. Steph slams the door in his face and is disappointed that it wasn't PCO. But we now know where PCO was as we go outside somewhere, as PCO is being held down by two mystery men. If you guys know what the tattoos were and who they belong to, let me know, because I have no idea. I am blind when it comes to this stuff. But Matt Cardona then walks in and tells PCO to stop messing with his property. It's 2024, bro. We do not call women property. It's not cool. Matt Cardona hates women, I think. But he then kicks PCO in the head. We fade to black, and we get ready for our main event. That main event being Joe Hendry versus Wolfgang. Wolfgang comes out first. Joe Hendry comes out, grabs the mic immediately, talks about what happened this Tuesday at Great American Bash, talks about knowing Wolfgang for years in Scotland, and then says that the Coffey brothers are not here tonight. I think they're brothers. I'm just going to say the Coffeys are not here tonight, and Wolfgang is by himself. This gives Hendry a moment to just blindside Wolfgang with the attack, and then our match starts. Commentary talks about this being a more fiery Joe Hendry than we're used to. This is uncharacteristic to see Hendry bring the fight so aggressively right out the gate. They talk about the history between these two men, having wrestled for years, I guess, in Scotland, and that this is not the same Joe Hendry that Wolfgang is familiar with or might remember. So I really did like the uptick in his aggression. Joe Hendry is the character to watch in wrestling right now, whether it's on WWE television or TNA television, or we're going to be seeing him in House of Glory in a couple months, or next month, I should say. So I am all for developing him as much as possible. This match was fine. You know, it was a nice back and forth as you have Wolfgang, who is the bigger and therefore stronger of the two, using his power to try to outmatch Hendry, but Hendry surprising us all with his own strength. There was one moment where he hit a massive fall-away slam after he basically deadlifted him up off of his knees and then shooting him behind him. It was a great moment to see how powerful and versatile Hendry is, who then hits a fun kip-up afterwards. The finish of the match coming after Wolfgang attempts his Swanton Bomb. I'm so sorry, I forget what the name of the move is. It does have its own name, but missing, and thus allowing Hendry to hit his standing ovation, get the 1-2-3, and continue his excellent week over Gallus, having pinned Joe Coffey at the Great American Bash on Tuesday. So I really hope this is it. I really don't want to see Hendry continue this feud with Gallus. I would love to see him move on to bigger and better. No offense to Gallus, no offense to Coffey, no offense to Wolfgang. It's just objectively the star power is just imbalanced in this feud. NXT is giving over Gallus for him, and TNA is giving Joe Hendry. So I hope the competition level increases. Even if it doesn't, this crowd is just eating out of the palm of Hendry's hand. So let it continue. Let it be whatever it needs to be. It's fine. Just make sure Joe Hendry is going after that title at Bound for Glory. That should have been the end of the show. It should be the last thing we see, Joe Hendry standing tall. But we go backstage as we are alerted that a fight breaks out as we see Mike Santana and the system being pulled apart by referees, by security, and Santana is just rabid, looking to bring the fight to the system. I don't know if they attacked him. I don't know if he attacked them. All I do know is next week is going to be great. One last bit of news before I wrap up the show tonight. They announced Bound for Glory, what day it will be, and they announced its location. We now know it will be October 26th in Detroit, Michigan. Nothing against the great city of Detroit. I'm a little surprised and a little disappointed. There has been lots of talk all over town that TNA was going to try to have Bound for Glory in London. And I thought that would have been a much better venue for Joe Hendry to win the TNA World Championship. It would have felt much bigger for TNA to have had this show internationally. And then there was even talk that maybe it was going to be in New York. And selfishly, I would have much preferred that. I would have loved to have attended this event. But good for Detroit for getting this big show. TNA has been killing it with their ticket sales. TNA has been absolutely on fire lately. And God willing, the momentum just continues to pick up. But guys, this was the Mark It Down podcast. This was the Gym Pack Zone. Thank you so much for being with me. Thank you so much for listening to me speak and yada, yada, yada. And I hope you enjoyed the show. You guys know the deal by now. If you're already a subscriber, if you're already part of the fam, we appreciate you and thank you for sticking with us. If you're new and you're just checking us out for the first time, thank you. I don't know what brought you in, but I hope you know how appreciated you are, and I hope you stick around because the more of you guys there are, the more fun we could have here on the pod. We are dangerously close to 1,000 subscribers, and I promise you guys, we have been brainstorming every day about what we're going to do when we hit 1,000, and we've got some fun stuff coming up. We are talking giveaways. We are talking membership perks. We are talking everything. So stick with us if you're already with us, and if you're thinking about sticking with us, if you're thinking about joining the party, do not hesitate. You do not want to miss out. You know the deal too. If you can't just be with us here, if you're chomping at the bit for more of us, check us out on social media. We are on Facebook, we are on X, we are on TikTok, and we are on Instagram. We have all the fun there. A lot of it Seinfeld related. Almost a dangerous amount of Seinfeld memes. A lot of Seinfeld. What do I know? But guys, thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I am James Chisanti. This is the Market Down Podcast, and on Thursdays, this is the Gym Pack Zone. So, as always, watch wrestling. As always, watch TNA. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.